Hello, my name is Esther Liegand, head of KIT Link, based at Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. We opened our office here in San Francisco in the German hub, 101 Montgomery, and as a liaison officer, I want to thank our participants and audience for their contribution. We unfold together so many different aspects of the transatlantic ecosystem in our interview series and our person meetings here in San Francisco. KIT Link is the strong bond between the German Southwest and the Silicon Valley. Today we will talk about a special innovation ecosystem with Oliver Hanisch from Campus Founders. Oliver shares his vision of Campus Founders to become the leading community of entrepreneurs and innovators within the heart of Europe and the first choice for founders wanting to create an impactful future. Oliver has lived and worked in the Silicon Valley ecosystem, and he definitely knows how to support entrepreneurs to set up their startup. Together we know how important it is to join across sectors and continents, share visions and empower their realizations. With KIT Link, we build bridges into other innovation hotspots, and we welcome and collaborate with Campus Founders, bringing together what is the strength of different places. Greetings coming now from Jens Horstman, Director of Crestlight Ventures, here from San Francisco, where it's really windy. Enjoy our talk with today's speaker, Oliver Hanisch.
Hi everyone, this is the KIT Link series of videos, and to demonstrate that it's truly a transatlantic link, we are coming today from San Francisco. Behind me is the Bay Bridge and the San Francisco Bay. Today's speaker is Oliver Hanisch, and we are going to hear about Campus Founders, a wonderful initiative in Hilbronn, Germany, that actually found its roots here in San Francisco. Oliver spent quite a bit of time here. This is where we became friends and worked on a number of ventures. He is now replicating this idea called the Venture Studio in Germany very successfully, and I'm excited to not only announce him but to work with him over there and work here. And with me is KIT Link and a number of interesting people that are living the bridge, if you will. And we are excited to have you here at some point. And if you are interested, please let us know. Here comes Oliver.
So welcome, Oliver. Thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited. I'm excited about the next 45 minutes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. You know, of course, before we kind of dive into what you're doing at Campus Founders, I would love to hear a little bit about your background, sort of the beginnings of entrepreneurship for you in your life. And of course, you've had this incredible journey from Germany to California and then back again. And we'd just love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share. I mean, entrepreneurship for me started very early. The first business I created was right after high school. It was in the t-shirt business pretty much, so printing and embroidery for t-shirts and other textiles. But then, yeah, it has always been a part of my career. Sometimes running my own business, sometimes supporting other businesses or startups. Until now. And that was the case back in Germany already, then of course in the US, where I learned a lot. And now I'm back to Germany again, and I'm trying to, share what I've seen, what I've learned, and all the experiences I got with, current or future founders.
Yeah, that's great. And so what brought you to the US in the first place? I mean, it's kind of an unusual move.
Yeah, I had a small business in Munich back then, and the business became a part of Siemens. However, I had another client, which was based back then out of Mountain View, later Belmont. Yeah, I could see myself more working for that small client rather than becoming a part of Siemens. And therefore, I accepted the offer and joined the team in California. Originally, the plan was that I stay for 3 months and then I go back to Europe and build the business there. 3 months became 18 months, and 18 months became 14 years overall. So
Oh, wow. That's crazy. And was there a culture shock for you when you went to America, especially as far as how the teams were working and how the business side was working?
No, I don't think it was a culture shock. I mean,
Mhm.
I have been working with startups before, or I had been also in touch with you investors before. However, it was still eye-opening. I wouldn't call it a shock, but it was eye-opening, and it was just a different pace, and it was a different environment, and everyone spoke startup and understood what startups are, and there was no need to explain. So not a shock necessarily, but yeah, it was just a fantastic experience in a very fast-paced environment. The shock was more when I moved back to Germany, I have to admit. So it was more like, yeah, I think the shock was bigger then, because when you go abroad, you expect that things are different. So I was prepared. I was open. I was prepared, and that was all fine. But when I moved back to Germany about 3 years ago, I wasn't prepared. I would say I wasn't prepared because I had changed. The country had changed, and I was gone for so long that that was definitely more of a shock than going to the US.
I think that's really interesting. And just out of curiosity, what were a couple of things that were shocking for you or were difficult to adapt to?
Look, I mean, I don't think there's this one or the other thing. I mean, it's just you come back and you have a picture in mind that is just outdated, right? And you have, when I left Germany, I think Germany, we were selling like 3G networks, and I had my Siemens or later the Nokia phones, and I kept it in the US because it was awesome, right? So I felt like, hey, look, Silicon Valley, great, but not everything is advanced in Silicon Valley, like infrastructure, whether that was phone or whether that was train or whatever it is. Yeah, but coming back, I think Silicon Valley has developed so fast, and in a lot of areas, the Germany hasn't been able to keep up with some of the changes, and yeah, so it was just a surprise, for the good and for the bad. I mean, both, right? Because a lot of things that I didn't necessarily enjoy or appreciate in Silicon Valley, I do appreciate here. So it's not a better or worse. It's just a different. And depending on where you stand or what chapter in your life you're in right now, the one world works better or the other one, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, speaking about this change, the reason why you made the change was because of this offer to be at Campus Founders. Is that correct? Or is there something else that brought you back to Germany?
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, I did not think that I would go back to Germany, quite frankly. I felt very well in California. We were doing great. The kids were doing great. My kids are born in California. My wife is from Mexico originally. So I did not think we would ever move back to Germany. But yeah, then I received this invitation to come to Hilbronn and get to know the city and some of the organizations here, and got to understand that there are some very visionary people here that want to transform this city and this region from a historically very strong, economically strong, but very industrial heavy environment into a more knowledge and education based environment. And that vision I just found very appealing, and to become a part of this and foster or build an ecosystem that is designed for startups and helps founders to succeed with their startups. I found this very appealing, and that's what made me move to Germany, back to Germany.
Mm-hmm. And so now you have been the CEO of Campus Founders for, is it 3 years now or?
Correct.
Going on 4?
No, just over 3 now, yes.
Just over 3. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so can you tell us a little bit more about Campus Founders and what your mission is and whom you serve?
Yeah. So Campus Founders, generally speaking, we're not only an entrepreneurship and innovation center, but we consider ourselves to be a platform for entrepreneurship and startups. We shape the next generation of responsible entrepreneurs and innovators. I think this is very important, that it includes also other innovators, not only the startup founders. But I mean, if you ask me about the vision, which you haven't, but I'm happy to share.
I love the vision. Please tell us about the vision.
I mean, what I envision here is really that we create something very special that becomes like a center of gravity for everything related to entrepreneurship and startup success, right here in the southwest of Germany, and it should be so special that it also has international appeal, right? So because Hilbronn, in the US, you always talk about the diamond in the rough, and that's what usually use in real estate in the real estate sense. But here, you could actually use it in a whole city or regional sense. It is a diamond, and a lot of things have been started to polish it and make it shine. But at the end, it's still a lot of work in front of us. And yeah, we as campus founders are part of this. Our focus really is on educating entrepreneurs, but then also supporting them on their entrepreneurial journey in setting up startups and incubating them, accelerating them, and helping them with from the very early stages all the way to market validation and growth, internationalization even.
That's great. And I remember your work with the German Accelerator too. I'm sure there's some commonalities as well there with that. It's so interesting that you are located in Heilbronn, because as you said, this region was very sort of industrial, had a lot of industry, but that industry was not necessarily startups and that kind of work. And so why do you feel that Heilbronn is a good place for campus founders to be located?
I mean, first of all, it is a region of world market leaders, you could say, right? Here in Germany, we're calling them the hidden champions. Because it's really like mid-sized companies that are, sometimes rather large, but they are not necessarily household names, but they're just the leaders in whatever market niche they occupy. But having said that, these companies, they have all been founded, so it is historically also a very, very entrepreneurial region, right? It's just what I look at it in a way that the region has been a little bit like a victim to its own success when it comes to startup creation, right? Because the startups that have been created some 10 years ago, or even whether it's decades or generations ago, have been doing so well that they have been sucking up all the talent from the market. And if you live here, if you study here, there's a lot of great companies that you could join. You could get a great salary right from the beginning. And so startups or entrepreneurship has not necessarily been, the number one choice for people here that have graduated, right? And with Campus Founders, we want to change that again, right? We want to get back to the roots, you could say, right? And support more innovative, not only students, but people in general, to get started their own companies and help them to make it a big success and create the next generation, the new mid-sized companies, or the new world market leaders in their niches then.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like you want to bring the shine back to the region in a way, and bring that spirit back. Just
at least the entrepreneurial one, right? I mean,
at least the entrepreneurial.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you talked about how you help startups and you also help innovators. In what ways do you do that? What other kinds of programs or initiatives do you have at Campus Founders?
Yeah, so we differentiate 3 areas of activity. So yeah, you could say business units maybe, but one is focused on talent. So one is focused on on training the next generation of entrepreneurs. So we collaborate a lot with universities, for example, in educating students, educating people that have an interest. We want to inspire them about the opportunities entrepreneurship provides. We want to support them in understanding what it means to have an entrepreneurial mindset. We want to train them in methodologies that they need to test the market and start successfully. So this is the top of the funnel for us. Lots of these people that we train will end up in some of these companies that I was just talking about, right? These more established companies, which is great, right? Because we'll have a lot of well-trained people with the right mindset in these companies then as well. And then the second area, and that's what we hope, is that we manage to transfer more and more people with that mindset into actual founders. So not only entrepreneurial minded folks, but also actually people who do it, right? People who launch the next startup, identify a problem in the market, use their research results to create a company. So that's really the second area of activity, is really to incubate and accelerate startup success. And then the third area, we call that community. And that's really about bringing everyone together in the ecosystem, right? So this is, we're not looking at startups and the founders in a silo, but we know that startup success depends on a lot of different things, right? And that's why I was talking about Campus Founders as a platform where we want to connect and bring everyone together. So if you're a student, you will find startups that you can join and learn. If you're a startup, you'll find opportunities to connect with investors. You'll find opportunities to connect with your first pilot customers, and so forth. So at the end, our community area is really about bringing the ecosystem together, creating opportunities. We're always saying innovation doesn't happen in one-way streets. Innovation happens at crossings. And in the community space, we create a lot of these crossings and hope that people run into each other, and and something magic comes out of it.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. You use this word ecosystem, and of course, that's, I know, something you're very interested in creating, and you are creative ecosystems. So what is the ecosystem that you are creating at Campus Founders?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's bringing the different stakeholders of an ecosystem together. So we start very early. We address and we work with students, sometimes even high school students, who we provide opportunities to learn, to connect with founders, for example. But then it goes all the way through from high schools and universities to the investors, to the companies, but also to the authorities, to media, to other networks. Very important. I mean, there's a lot of very established and strong networks. And as a startup founder, you want to connect with these networks and want to have access to all these players that may know each other for decades and have very strong relationships. And if you manage to get in there, that can make a difference in your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an amazing sort of multifaceted ecosystem that you are creating there. And of course, with that probably comes a mindset that you also need to impart. Can you tell us a little bit about the mindset in this ecosystem? Yeah,
so I mean, if a word starts with co, the likelihood that we use it rather often here at Campus Founders is very high, right? So everything that is kind of co, we love. So whether that is co-innovation or co-creation, collaboration, or community starts also with the co, right? So everything around that we really like. We also, competition starts also with co, and therefore we also love the fact of co-opetition, that we want the startups to talk to each other in a very early phase. And even though they may be competing in some areas, We want them to understand that, if the market is not big enough for the two of you, you're probably following the wrong objectives here or goals here. So everything with the is very important. So as a platform, you can imagine you want people with an open mindset, right? So you want people to talk to each other, to easily connect, to share experiences, to share best practices, to help each other. I think this is one of the things that is also very important for us, that we're expecting our community members also to contribute. So it's not about just consuming, I'm part of that, so now please deliver, right? It's also about contributing and helping the others succeed with whatever they're on, or providing feedback, or whatever it is, right? So I always like to bring up this. We once organized a study tour to a conference where we filled a bus full of, we call them future founders, like in fact students, some actual founders, some investors, some corporate representatives. And we drove up to a conference somewhere further north in Germany. We spent the night there, we attended the conference, we went back. Overall, great experience. And I think what I liked about it most was the time we had together, right? So what happened is that one startup founder sat like 4 hours in the bus next to a business angel and got a lot of mentoring and advice. Two other founders sat next to each other. One was more like the back end guy. Other one was more like a designer guy. So at the end of this trip, right, one had a nice looking app and the other one had one that worked, right? Actually worked. So they really helped each other. One was designing the interface, the UI for the one, and the other one was helping them, with the back end. And that's exactly what I'm trying to create here, that it's not about just, gimme, but it's really about understanding the value of the community and contributing with your own strength to the community. In the US, you would probably say, on the one hand side, it's a paying forward into the community. On the other side, it's also a giving back.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I loved how you just mentioned how, on this bus, that kind of piece of magic happened, and you had that kind of, I guess, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of hustler, designer and hacker come together, find each other.
Well, I mean, this is exactly what our intentions are, right? I mean, that's why, like, all of our programs are designed in a way, if it's not already existing startup teams, our programs and educational programs in particular are designed in a way that they're interdisciplinary. So we want to bring people with different backgrounds together. So you have the engineer from one university talking to you call them hustler, like, the sales guy, maybe the more business-minded person from another school, and then we have the coding school here in Hilbronn, the 42 Hilbronn. So you get some coders together, and then the magic happens, right? If you have a designer and an engineer, and then the magic happens. And that's really what we try to do. And the same bridge you want to build between not only the founding teams, but also between the startup teams and the teams of the established companies, right? So that collaboration also between those two worlds works, because one can benefit from the other, in both directions, right? So for the startup, it's a fantastic opportunity to have a business owner there, who runs a company with sometimes several thousand people, and sits on that bus and is open, so you can learn a lot from the expertise. But on the other hand, this owner of that mid-sized company learns just as much from the student or the startup founder. At the end, I think both will benefit tremendously.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Also considering that you also have a lot of different and diverse programs. And I wanted to ask you in particular about the Campus Founders Venture Studio, and maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, the Venture Studio is our latest program. We have just recently launched this. The Venture Studio is pretty much, it's a program where startups that have made the first progress, right? It's still in a very, very early stage, but at least they have a team. They have a prototype. Sometimes they have a product. Sometimes they have the first test customer or the first pilot customers. Then they can apply to the venture studio. They receive up to 100K in a convertible note. And then they become part of our community, and they get like very custom support from our team. So this is really a program that is designed to help startups from, to get the market validation and get investor ready. So we don't look at ourselves necessarily as a financial investor, but we want to foster more startup activities, more startup success, and we want to take these, once again, diamonds, and make them shine and put them in front of some financial investors, and make it an easy choice for those to invest in them and help them scale.
Yeah. Has there been any companies that have started at Campus Founders that have found a place outside, now have moved on to maybe relocated and found their start in the US or any other place in Germany?
Yeah, generally speaking, we need to keep in mind we're 2.5 years old, more or less, right? So I started about 3 years ago, and but then it was only me. So we had to build a team, we had to build programs, and so 2.5 years ago, we got really rolling here. But yes, we do. In fact, last Friday there was a big party at one of our startup members. They're called Markt Pilot. They have raised a seed financing round of, I think it was 6.2 million euros. And on Friday we had the large party, which unfortunately, due to my cold that you may be able to hear that I'm still suffering from a little bit, I had to miss. Nevertheless, we've been supporting this team for probably 1.5, almost 2 years now. And they've been in our space in the very early stages, and more recently we have helped them not only to apply and get accepted to the German accelerator, but also with their move into the US market. We've connected them with friends of ours who have now become, I don't know the exact title, but I would probably call it VP sales or whatever you want to call it. So we're actively helping them to enter the US market. And so that's a little bit our, the one that I can show when it comes to US market entry. However, besides that, we have also had startups coming the other way around. So we have just welcomed our first international startup member to our community, which is a startup from Israel that has developed some great products and great technology, and now became a part of Campus Founders community to enter the European market. Yeah, and then as mentioned, the venture studio is up and running now. So we've made our first investment into a small AI startup here from Hilbronn, which is in the image processing business. They're called Iuna AI. So hopefully that's going to be one of those also being ready for prime time soon.
Yeah. So there's a lot cooking in the kitchen, as we say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know that you have now at Campus Founders is obviously becoming more and more international. And what about your team? For instance, with the Venture Studio, are there Americans involved or other international people involved in that as well on the leadership side?
Yeah, this is really one of my objectives, to build a very diverse team and find a nice balance of people like locals who know the local networks, who know the local ecosystem very well, and internationals that bring a different perspective and thinking sometimes to the team. So yeah, I'm looking just beyond the camera here. There's Alicia sitting. She's from Mexico. The Venture Studio is run by Corey, who is from Oregon. So we have a very international team. We have a very diverse team. We have a good mix of genders. We have a good mix of heritage, where people come from. So I think the diversity is something that's very, very important to us. And yeah, it helps when we onboard international teams here and try to support them and accelerate them here in the German market. On the other hand, it helps if you have been abroad, if you know what a founder goes through. Also, if the founders go abroad, I mean, the experience that I've gained through the German accelerator for many years, helping German startups to enter the US market for many years. Obviously, our startup members benefit from that now as well.
Mm-hmm. And this diverse team, this diversity, what benefits do you think it brings to all of this?
I mean, look, I mean, the diversity you can slice and dice in different directions. So first of all, diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences. I think you just get a more holistic, a more true picture of whatever you're doing, right? Whether that's a market understanding or whether that's whatever it is. But then also, and you talked about the hipster, hacker, hustler, right? So that's also what we're trying to do, right? So we're not only trying to have some business people here who can give you good business advice, but some of our program managers are engineers, others are developers. So we're also trying to build a very international, or not international, but a very diverse skill set within our team in order to be able to help the startups wherever help is needed. Right. And I think it's just a very enriching experience. And we always say, what we're trying to do is best of both worlds. Right. And so whether that is best of both worlds, like American perspective and German perspective, or whether that is a male or female, or whether that is a coder and a designer, I think it's always very beneficial if you bring together people with different perspectives, and the result at the end is going to be much better than if you only have like-minded folks.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. And of course, at KIT Link, we're very interested in making those bridges between, different communities. And of course, one of the communities we're most interested in is, of course, the Germany and the US. And that's the way that we're really trying to bridge things. And I know that's also a very strong bridge that you have created as well at Campus Founders.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I've spent 14 years in the US, and I've helped a lot of German organizations, right? Whether that is companies, small or large, whether that is startups, whether that is government organizations. So I've helped a lot of organizations build the bridge with me being in Silicon Valley. Now I have changed my location, and so I'm trying to keep building these bridges. I'm just located at a different site. So that's one. But besides like just geographical bridges, I think there's also a lot of bridges that you have built. You have to build between, like different cultures, also corporate cultures, right? So like a large multinational company is very different from an owner-run mid-sized company, is very different from a startup. And also to bridge or build bridges between those entities is just as challenging than to build geographic bridges.
Yeah, and in fact, they may be more challenging in some ways.
Probably, yeah.
I'm just wondering if you have any other projects or anything else that's happening at Campus Founders that you would like to mention.
Oh, how much time do you have? I mean, we have so much going on. So let me think. Let me pick three things. So first, we're going to launch our a new accelerator program this fall, which is focused on AI startups in the B2B enterprise space. So I was able to recruit an old friend of mine who moved from Berlin to Hilbronn now to build this, which I'm very excited and grateful about. So we'll build a really world-class program for these super early stage startup founders here, starting in fall. Second would be we're pretty agnostic when it comes to technology or verticals. It just needs to make sense for us here in the region. But we have still one one specialization at that very moment, more to follow. But right now we really follow on what we call Learn Tech. So Learn Tech is everything ed tech, HR tech, so everything about the future of education and the future of work, right? So all the technologies that fall in that category, we have a special program and a special initiative that is way bigger than Heilbronn. So we have more than or almost 40 startup members in that program, in that initiative already. That really tries to make a difference when it comes to education or the future of work. And then the third one, which is a very new, a new activity or a new program that we're going to launch, which we're also super proud of, is I'm sure everyone knows Slush. If not, Slush is, I think, Europe's biggest startup festival, I think I could call it. And Slush is going to is going into the regions and is supporting regional ecosystems. And there were 80 applicants for the first round. We were one of them, and we got selected 1 out of 6. The only ecosystem in Germany that will launch a Heilbronn Slush event this fall, which me and my whole team is super excited about. And so, of course, I want to extend an invitation to everyone who is listening or viewing here, either to join or to speak or to sponsor or just to come and have a good time with us. So I think these are the 3 initiatives that come to mind first at the moment.
Yeah, I think those sound really exciting, and we'll put those links to those in the show notes so that people can get involved, right? So we'll have that information for them.
Great.
Yeah. And then just to kind of round out our discussion today, part of the KIT Link community, of course, where it's researchers, right? It's people who are in the university system. And people there are, I think, looking for opportunities that are not necessarily just in the academic sphere anymore. And so what kind of advice would you give a researcher or, postdoc who is curious and interested in maybe possibly getting involved in the startup world in some way?
Yeah, okay, let me think. I mean, there's several things. First of all, don't overthink, right? I see that so often that, especially researchers, that's their career so far, right? To really think a lot and develop things and prove things. So startup, it's very simple. It's just do it, right? Don't overthink, just do it. If you have identified a problem, or if you have found if you have a great research result that's very promising, just get started. Join an organization that can help you on the path, just like Campus Founders. Become a member here at Campus Founders. We can help you, with the very first steps. We're not even talking creating a startup at that moment, right? So we're talking the very first steps, and we can support you all the way to a point where there's a lot more certainty whether there is something behind your research result or not, right? And if we think then there is something, then we will continue joining you and supporting you with everything that you need. Obviously, we're not doing the work for you. That's what you still have to do yourself. But there's a lot of great support programs, whether that is in Karlsruhe, in Heilbronn, or anywhere else, of people who have done that many times. So don't be afraid, all right, reaching out. Don't be afraid to talk to people, get connected to people. Don't be afraid to share your idea. We had an event, Community Days, last week, and I had a conversation with a researcher. And then, it's still in Germany, it's still that people don't want to talk about their idea. Right? Is it like, this is not how it works, right? So don't be afraid. Get out there, get connected. Tell everyone who's willing to spend some time with you what you have in mind, what you have found. Get their feedback, learn from it, right? And look for support by organizations like Campus Founders or any others. All the universities have like an interface to the community and the entrepreneurship center or anything comparable that would be able to help you in your first steps and make the next connection, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I think what you said is also, I mean, that's just so key, right? Just get started, just take the risk. And that is like such a part of the mindset. Such a key part of the mindset is just to take a risk, be able to kind of get into the arena.
Yeah, I don't think it's taking a risk. It's really, I mean, you're taking a risk if you don't try, right? That's when you risk to really mess it up, right? So I think it's really do it, right? If it wasn't Nike, then I would say just do it, right? But get started, right? Talk to the people, get help. Because you shouldn't be afraid of trying. You should be afraid of wasting an opportunity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so well said, so beautifully said. So how can people get in touch with Campus Founders or get in touch? What's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is always visit our website. There's all different ways to connect us, whether that's through a contact form, whether that is with a program manager. We have all the social media channels, whether that's LinkedIn or Insta. Follow us, write to our team, drop me an email, right? Ping me on LinkedIn, drop me an email, oliver@campusfounders.de. I mean, there's many ways to get in touch. Depends on who you are and what channels you're using, I think.
Yeah, so lots of ways. That's great. So thank you so much, Oliver, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Right. I hope my voice was okay. And those people who know me recognize that this was me, because my voice is slightly different from the cold I had over the weekend. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. And as you can tell, hopefully can tell that I'm very excited about what we're up to here. And I'd love to extend this invitation to everyone who's viewing or listening to reach out, whether that's for something very specific or just in general. I very much look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you. And we will make sure we put all those links into the show notes because I think it's important for people to have them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.